Something that's probably been holding you back for a long time, something that you may not even fully realize is standing in your way. It's that weak version of yourself, the one who doubts, who procrastinates, who makes excuses, and who settles for less than what you truly deserve. And today I'm going to show you exactly how to kill that version. I'm going to walk you through the steps to stop letting that weak version of yourself dictate your life, and show you how to step into the strong, confident, and unstoppable person you were always meant to be. But before we dive into it, let me be clear, this is not about being perfect. It's not about getting everything right all the time. It's about making a decision to do better, to act better, to be better. It's about taking control of your life, your choices, and your future. If you've been feeling stuck or frustrated with where you are in life, if you've been letting fear, doubt, or laziness hold you back from achieving your full potential, this message is for you. You don't have to stay in that place of weakness. You don't have to let that version of yourself keep you from the success, happiness, and fulfillment you deserve. So stay with me. I promise you this. Today you'll have a clear roadmap for how to kill that weak version of yourself and step into a version of you that's strong, empowered, and ready to take on the world. The only question is, are you ready to take action and make it happen? Let's get into it. Number 1, why this matters right now. What if the person you are today is the biggest obstacle to the life you truly want? Let that sink in for a moment. Not your circumstances, not your past, not the people around you, but you. That weak, hesitant, excuse-filled version of yourself that clings to comfort and avoids challenge. That's what's holding you back. And until you face it, until you decide that enough is enough, nothing will change. Here's why this matters, and why it matters right now. Time is slipping through your fingers. Every second, every minute that passes is gone forever. You don't get to rewind the clock. You don't get a second shot at this moment. And the question is, what are you doing with it? Are you letting it slip away? Are you giving it to that weaker version of yourself who keeps whispering, not today, or you're not ready yet? Because that voice isn't just costing you time, it's costing you opportunities, it's costing you growth, and it's costing you the life you could be living. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Jim, that sounds harsh. Aren't we supposed to give ourselves grace? Be patient with the process. And I agree, there's a time for patience. But patience isn't the same as procrastination. Grace isn't the same as making excuses. You've got to know the difference. Because the truth is, life doesn't wait for you to be ready. Life keeps moving. And if you're standing still, you're falling behind. Here's the deal. The person you are today is the result of the choices you've made up until now. Think about that. Every decision you've made, every time you chose to act or not to act, has shaped who you are and where you are right now. And if you're not where you want to be, if you're not living the life you dream of, it's because that weaker version of yourself has been calling the shots. Now, I don't say that to make you feel bad. I say it because you need to hear it. Sometimes the truth is uncomfortable, but it's also the first step toward change. Because once you recognize what's holding you back, you can do something about it. You can start making different choices. You can start becoming the person you're meant to be. But here's the thing, this isn't going to happen on its own. Nobody is coming to rescue you. Nobody is going to swoop in and say, here's the life you've always wanted, all wrapped up in a bow. That's not how this works. If you want more, you have to become more. You have to kill that weak version of yourself, the one who settles, who hesitates, who says maybe tomorrow, because tomorrow isn't promised. All you have is today. Let me tell you why this matters so much. It's because the choices you make today determine who you'll be tomorrow. Every time you let the weak version of yourself win, you're reinforcing those habits. You're strengthening that part of yourself that wants to stay small, that wants to stay comfortable. But every time you choose to fight back, every time you take a step forward, even when it's hard, you're building momentum. You're proving to yourself that you're capable of more. Think about it this way. The weak version of you is afraid of change. It's afraid of failure. It's afraid of discomfort. So it does everything it can to keep you stuck. It tells you it's too hard. It tells you you're not ready. It tells you what's the point. And if you listen to that voice, it wins. But here's the good news. You don't have to listen. You have a choice. You can decide right now to stop letting that voice control you. You can decide to start listening to the stronger version of yourself, the one who knows you're capable of more. And let me tell you something about that strong version of you. It's already there. It's not something you have to create. It's not something you have to find. It's already inside you, just waiting for you to let it take the lead. So how do you do that? How do you start silencing the weak version of yourself and letting the strong version take over? It starts with one decision, just one. Decide today that you're done making excuses. Decide that you're going to take action, no matter how small, to move closer to the life you want. Maybe that means waking up an hour earlier to work on your goals. Maybe it means saying no to something that's been draining your energy. Maybe it means finally starting that project you've been putting off. Whatever it is, just start. Because here's the thing, once you take that first step, the next one gets a little easier, and then the next one. And before you know it, you're building momentum. You're proving to yourself that you can do this. And that's how you kill the weak version of yourself. Not by trying to overhaul your life all at once, but by taking small, consistent actions that add up over time. And let me tell you something else. It's not going to be easy. You're going to have days when you don't feel like it. Days when the weak version of yourself is louder than ever, telling you to give up, to go back to your old habits. But those are the moments that matter most. Those are the moments when you get to choose who you're going to be. So let me ask you again, what if the person you are today is the biggest obstacle to the life you truly want? Are you willing to let that version of yourself keep running the show? Or are you ready to take control, to start making different choices, to start becoming the person you're meant to be? Because the truth is, the life you want is possible. The person you want to become is within reach. But it's up to you. It's your choice. And the best time to start is right now. So what are you waiting for? Kill that weak version of yourself and take the first step toward the life you deserve. You've got this. I believe in you. Now it's time to believe in yourself. Number 2, recognizing the weak version of yourself. How well do you know yourself? Really think about that for a moment. Not the version of you that you present to the world. Not the version that plays it safe or does what's expected. I'm talking about the version of you that exists when no one else is looking. That quiet part of yourself that holds you back, makes excuses, avoids discomfort. You see, the truth is, we all have a weaker version of ourselves lurking inside. And if we're not careful, that version ends up running the show. But recognizing that weak version of yourself is where change begins. It's uncomfortable, I know. No one likes to admit their faults, their fears, or the areas where they've fallen short. But you have to look at it. You have to be honest with yourself. Because if you don't recognize it, you can't change it. So let me ask you, and I want you to answer this for yourself. Who is that weaker version of you? What does it look like? What does it sound like? How does it show up in your life? Maybe it's the voice that talks you out of taking risks. Maybe it's the part of you that says, I'll start tomorrow, when you know deep down you won't. Maybe it's the habits that keep you stuck in the same place, year after year. Maybe it's the fear of failing, or the fear of judgment, or even the fear of success. Whatever it is, I want you to face it. Really see it for what it is. Because the longer you avoid it, the more power it has over you. And here's the thing, that weak version of yourself is sneaky. It doesn't show up waving a red flag saying, hey, I'm here to hold you back. No, it's much more subtle than that. It disguises itself as procrastination, as doubt, as busyness. It convinces you that you're too tired, or too busy, or that now just isn't the right time. It whispers lies like, you're not good enough, or what if you fail? And before you know it, you're stuck, spinning your wheels, living the same day over and over again, all because you let that weak version of yourself take the wheel. But here's the good news. Just as that weaker version of you exists, so does the stronger one. The version of you that's confident, disciplined, focused, the version of you that's capable of overcoming challenges, of pushing through fear, of creating the life you want. And the difference between those two versions of yourself, it's choice. Every single day you have a choice about which version of yourself you're going to feed, which version you're going to listen to. So let's talk about what it really takes to recognize that weaker version of yourself and take your power back. It starts with awareness. You can't change what you're not aware of. So I want you to start paying attention. Pay attention to your thoughts, your habits, your excuses. Notice when you're holding back. Notice when you're talking yourself out of something you know you should be doing. Notice when you're choosing comfort over growth. For example, think about your daily habits. Are they moving you closer to your goals, or are they keeping you stuck? When you wake up in the morning, are you hitting snooze because it's easier, or are you getting up and taking charge of your day? When you have a free moment, are you using it to learn, to grow, to take action? Or are you scrolling through your phone, wasting time? These small choices might not seem like a big deal in the moment, but they add up. They're either strengthening the weak version of yourself or the strong one. And let's talk about your self-talk, because that's where the weak version of yourself loves to hide. What are you saying to yourself on a daily basis? Are you lifting yourself up, or are you tearing yourself down? Are you telling yourself you can do this, or are you listing all the reasons why you can't? Because here's the truth. Whatever you tell yourself, you're going to believe. So if you've been letting that weak version of yourself dominate your inner dialogue, it's time to change the narrative. It's time to start telling yourself the truth, that you are capable, that you are worthy, that you have what it takes. But awareness is just the first step. Once you recognize that weaker version of yourself, you have to decide that you're not going to let it win. And that decision, it's not a one-time thing. It's a decision you have to make every single day. Because that weak version of yourself isn't going to just disappear. It's always going to be there, waiting for you to let your guard down. But every time you choose to rise above it, every time you choose to take action in spite of it, you weaken its grip on you. You prove to yourself that you're stronger. Now I want you to imagine something. Picture the life you want to live. Really picture it. The goals you want to achieve, the person you want to become, the impact you want to make. Now ask yourself, is the version of you that you're being today capable of creating that life? If the answer is no, then it's time to step up. It's time to let that stronger version of yourself take the lead. And here's the thing. It's not going to be easy. Change never is, but it's worth it. Because the alternative, staying stuck, letting that weaker version of yourself dictate your life, waking up one day filled with regret for the things you didn't do, the chances you didn't take, the person you didn't become. That's a far greater price to pay. So what's it going to be? Are you going to keep letting that weak version of yourself call the shots? Or are you going to take control? Are you going to keep making excuses? Or are you going to start taking action? Because the choice is yours. No one else can make it for you. And the best part, the moment you decide, the moment you commit to recognizing that weaker version of yourself and refusing to let it win, that's the moment everything starts to change. You have so much potential inside of you. You have so much strength, so much courage, so much power, but it's up to you to tap into it. It's up to you to decide that the weak version of yourself doesn't get to define you anymore. So start today. Start right now. Recognize that weak version of yourself, and then make the choice to rise above it. Because the life you want is waiting for you, and you're capable of so much more than you realize. Don't let anything hold you back, especially not yourself. Number 3, the cost of letting the weak version win. What's the price you're paying for staying the same? Think about that for a moment. What is it costing you, right now in this very moment, to let that weaker version of yourself take over? It's not a comfortable question, is it? But it's one we have to face, because if you don't understand the cost, you'll never feel the urgency to change. You'll stay in the same spot, year after year, wondering why your life isn't what you dreamed it could be. The truth is, there's a price for letting that weaker version win. And it's not just one price. It shows up in so many areas of your life. It's the opportunities you miss because you didn't take action. It's the relationships you let slip because you were too scared to be vulnerable or honest. It's the dreams you bury because you convince yourself you're not good enough or it's not the right time. The cost, it's your potential. It's the life you could have lived if only you had been brave enough to step up and take control. Let's break this down, because I want you to really feel this. Imagine you have a goal, a dream you've been carrying around for years. Maybe it's starting your own business, or getting in the best shape of your life, or repairing a broken relationship. But every time you think about taking the first step, that weak version of yourself shows up. It tells you, what if you fail? What if people laugh at you? What if it doesn't work out? So you listen, you stay in your comfort zone. And what happens? A month goes by. A year goes by, maybe 5 years go by. And that dream, it's still sitting there, untouched, while your life stays the same. Now think about how that feels. Think about the regret that starts to creep in. Because deep down, you know you were capable of more. You know you had it in you, but you let fear, doubt, and excuses hold you back. That's the cost. It's not just about the things you didn't do. It's about the person you didn't become. And that's a cost that can weigh on you for the rest of your life, if you're not careful. But it doesn't stop there. The weaker version of yourself doesn't just cost you your goals and dreams. It affects the way you show up in every area of your life. Think about your relationships. When you're letting that weak version of yourself take over, are you really being the partner, the parent, the friend you want to be, or are you holding back? Maybe you're afraid to speak your truth, or you're not fully present because you're too caught up in your own doubts and insecurities. And what does that do? It creates distance. It creates misunderstandings. It creates relationships that feel shallow, when deep down, you're craving something real and meaningful. And let's not forget about your health. How often do we let that weaker version of ourselves talk us out of taking care of our bodies? It says, I'll start eating better tomorrow, or I'll go to the gym next week. Meanwhile, your energy is low. Your confidence is low. You're not showing up as your best self because you're not taking care of the one body you've been given. And here's the harsh truth. That weak version of yourself doesn't care about your long-term health. It's only focused on the short-term comfort of skipping the hard stuff. But you're the one who has to live with the consequences. Now I know this might sound a little heavy, but it's not about making you feel bad. It's about waking you up. Because sometimes we get so caught up in our routines, in our excuses, that we forget what's really at stake. And what's at stake is your life. Your one precious life. The cost of letting that weaker version win isn't just measured in missed opportunities or unfulfilled dreams. It's measured in the quality of your life, in the way you feel about yourself, in the legacy you leave behind. But here's the good news. You don't have to keep paying that price. You can make a decision right now to take back control. You can decide that the weak version of yourself doesn't get to run the show anymore. And the first step, it's recognizing that cost, really feeling it. Because when you understand what you're losing by staying the same, you'll find the motivation to change. You'll stop making excuses. You'll stop settling for less. You'll realize that the price of staying stuck is far greater than the price of doing the hard work to grow. And let me tell you something else. The cost isn't just about what you lose. It's about what you could gain. Imagine for a moment what your life could look like if you let the stronger version of yourself take over. Imagine waking up every day with a sense of purpose and energy, because you know you're on the right path. Imagine looking in the mirror and feeling proud of the person staring back at you because you know you're giving it your all. Imagine the relationships you could build, the impact you could make, the dreams you could achieve. That's what's waiting for you on the other side of this decision. But you have to make that choice. No one else can do it for you. No one else can step in and say, I'm going to take control of your life. It's up to you. It's always been up to you. And yes, it's going to be hard. Yes, there will be moments when you want to give up. When that weak version of yourself tries to sneak back in. But every time you choose to push through, every time you choose to keep going, you're building a stronger, more resilient version of yourself. And that's priceless. So ask yourself, what's the cost of staying the same? What are you losing right now by letting that weak version of yourself take over? And then ask yourself, what's the cost of stepping up, of taking control, of becoming the person you were meant to be? Because yes, there's a cost to growth. It requires effort, discipline, and courage. But the rewards, they're worth it. Every single time. You have a choice to make. You can keep paying the price of staying stuck, or you can invest in your future, your growth, your potential. And let me tell you, the moment you make that decision, the moment you decide that the weak version of yourself doesn't get to win anymore, that's the moment your life begins to change. So don't wait. Don't let another day, another year, another decade slip by. The cost is too great. Step up, take control, and show yourself what you're really capable of. Number 4, uncovering the strong version of yourself. Let me tell you something that might just change the way you see yourself forever. There is a stronger, bolder, more capable version of you already inside you, waiting to be uncovered. That version of you isn't some far-off, distant dream. It's not some impossible goal. It's real, it's alive, and it's right there, underneath the layers of fear, doubt, and hesitation that have been holding you back. If you don't believe me, it's because you've spent so much time listening to the voice of your weaker self that you've forgotten what the stronger you even sounds like. But today, I want to remind you who you really are and what you're capable of. Let's get one thing straight. Uncovering the strongest version of yourself doesn't mean you have to become someone you're not. It's not about pretending to be perfect or trying to impress anyone. It's about stripping away all the things that aren't really you, all the excuses, all the fears, all the habits that are keeping you stuck, so that the real you, the best you, can shine through. You see, the strongest version of yourself isn't something you have to create from scratch. It's already there. Your job is to uncover it, to let it out, to give it the space to grow and thrive. Now, I want you to picture this for a moment. Imagine what your life would look like if you were operating at your full potential, not just in one area, but in all areas. Imagine waking up in the morning and feeling a deep sense of purpose because you know exactly who you are and what you're here to do. Imagine walking into a room with confidence because you've done the work to build yourself up and you're not afraid to show the world what you've got. Imagine the kind of relationships you could have if you stopped holding back, if you showed up as your most authentic, powerful self. That's what we're talking about here. That's what's possible when you uncover the strongest version of you. But let's get real for a second, because I know this isn't easy. If it were easy, everyone would do it. Everyone would be living their best life, fully confident, fully present, fully alive. But the truth is, most people settle. Most people stay stuck in their comfort zones because they're afraid to do the hard work of facing themselves. They're afraid to confront their weaknesses, their fears, their failures. And you know what happens when you avoid that work. You stay small. You stay stuck. You live a life that's less than what you're capable of. And that's not what I want for you. So how do you uncover the strongest version of yourself? It starts with a decision to stop hiding, to stop settling, to stop making excuses. It's a decision to face yourself honestly and say, I know there's more to me than this. I know I'm capable of more, and I'm willing to do what it takes to bring that out. That decision is the spark. It's the starting point. But once you make it, you have to back it up with action. You have to be willing to put in the work. One of the first steps in this process is to get clear on who you really are. Not who the world thinks you should be. Not who your family or friends expect you to be, but who you truly are at your core. What are your values? What do you care about? What lights you up? What do you want your life to stand for? These are the questions you need to ask yourself, because the stronger version of you is rooted in your truth. It's not about copying someone else or trying to fit into a mold. It's about being fully, unapologetically yourself. Once you're clear on who you are, the next step is to start aligning your actions with that truth. This is where the work really begins. Because let's face it, it's one thing to know what you want and who you want to be. It's another thing entirely to live it out every day. It means making choices that support your growth, even when they're hard. It means saying no to the things that don't align with your values, even when it's uncomfortable. It means holding yourself accountable, even when no one else is watching. And let me tell you, this process isn't going to be smooth or easy. There will be moments when you doubt yourself, moments when you want to give up, moments when that weaker version of yourself tries to take back control. But that's where the real growth happens. Because every time you push through those moments, every time you choose to keep going, you're uncovering a little more of your strength. You're proving to yourself that you're capable of more than you ever thought possible. You'll also start to notice something amazing: momentum. At first, the changes might feel small. Maybe you wake up a little earlier to work on your goals. Maybe you make healthier choices in your diet. Maybe you start speaking up more in meetings or setting boundaries in your relationships. But over time, those small changes start to add up. They create a ripple effect that touches every area of your life. And before you know it, you're living in a way that feels aligned, powerful, and true to who you are. Now, I want to share something important with you. Uncovering the strongest version of yourself isn't just about you. Yes, it's about improving your own life, but it's also about the impact you have on others. When you step into your strength, you inspire the people around you to do the same. You show them what's possible. You become a light, a source of encouragement and hope. And that's one of the greatest gifts you can give to the world. So here's my challenge to you. Stop settling. Stop hiding. Stop listening to the voice that tells you you're not good enough. Instead, make the decision to uncover the strongest version of yourself. Start small if you have to. Take one step, then another. But don't stop. Keep going. Keep growing. Keep becoming the person you were meant to be. Because I promise you this, when you uncover the strongest version of yourself, you won't just change your life. You'll change the lives of everyone around you. And that's a legacy worth fighting for. Number 5, the power of small, consistent choices. I want you to really think about it. If your future self could talk to you right now, if the version of you that's stronger, more confident, more accomplished, could sit across from you, what would they tell you? What advice would they give? Would they thank you for the choices you're making today, or would they beg you to make different ones? Because here's the truth. The strongest, best version of yourself isn't created overnight. It's built, brick by brick, through the small, consistent choices you make every single day. That's the power of small, consistent choices. They're not flashy, they're not dramatic, but they are the foundation of every great transformation. And the beautiful thing is, they're within your control. Right now, today, you have the power to choose. You don't have to wait for a perfect moment or some big life event. You don't need permission from anyone else. It's about what you decide to do with the next 5 minutes, the next hour, the next day. And when you realize that, it's a game changer. Here's the thing about small choices. They're easy to overlook. It's easy to tell yourself, skipping this workout doesn't matter, or I'll start eating healthy tomorrow, or I'll work on my goals next week. But those small decisions add up. Every time you choose to hit snooze instead of getting up, every time you let fear or laziness win, you're feeding the weaker version of yourself. And every time you push through, even when it's hard, even when you don't feel like it, you're feeding the stronger version of yourself. Let me tell you a little story. Years ago, I was in a place where I felt stuck. I wasn't where I wanted to be in life. And I was frustrated because I couldn't figure out how to change. I thought I needed some big breakthrough or some dramatic shift. But then I realized something. It wasn't about doing one big thing. It was about doing 100 little things every day, consistently. It was about making better choices, not perfect choices, just better ones, and sticking with them. And that's when everything started to change. You see, small choices might not feel powerful in the moment, but they have a ripple effect. Let's say you decide to wake up 30 minutes earlier tomorrow to work on a personal goal. That might seem like a small thing, but think about what happens when you do it consistently. You start to see progress. That progress builds confidence. That confidence makes you want to keep going. Before you know it, that one small choice has set off a chain reaction that changes your entire life. And it's not just about what you do, it's about who you become in the process. When you make consistent, intentional choices, you're not just building new habits, you're building a new identity. You're proving to yourself that you're someone who shows up, someone who follows through, someone who takes control of their life. And that identity, that's where real strength comes from. Now, I know what you might be thinking, but Jim, what if I mess up? What if I make the wrong choice or fall back into old habits? And let me tell you, that's going to happen. You're going to mess up. You're going to have days where you don't make the best choices. But that doesn't mean you failed. It doesn't mean you have to give up. Because the power of small, consistent choices works both ways. Just like one bad choice doesn't define you, one good choice can get you back on track. Think about it like this. Imagine you're trying to climb a mountain. Every step you take brings you closer to the top. But let's say you trip and fall down a few steps. Does that mean you should quit and go back to the bottom? Of course not. You get up, you dust yourself off, and you keep climbing. It's the same with your choices. What matters isn't whether you fall, it's whether you keep going. And here's another thing to keep in mind. Small choices aren't just about what you do, they're about what you think and believe. Every time you tell yourself, I can't do this, or I'm not good enough, you're feeding that weaker version of yourself. But every time you choose to believe in your potential, every time you remind yourself of your goals, every time you choose to see yourself as capable and strong, you're feeding the best version of you. I want you to take a moment right now and think about one small choice you can make today to move closer to the person you want to be. Maybe it's choosing to spend 10 minutes reading instead of scrolling through your phone. Maybe it's choosing to prepare a healthy meal instead of grabbing fast food. Maybe it's choosing to have a difficult conversation you've been avoiding. Whatever it is, make that choice. And then tomorrow, make another one. And another. Because the truth is, your life is the sum of your choices. And when you start making better choices, you start building a better life. Let me tell you something else. The power of small, consistent choices isn't just about achieving your goals. It's about finding joy in the process. When you focus on the small steps, you start to realize that growth isn't just about the destination. It's about the journey. It's about those moments when you push through, even when it's hard, when you surprise yourself with what you're capable of, when you look back and see how far you've come. Those moments are where the magic happens. So here's my challenge to you. Stop waiting for the perfect moment. Stop telling yourself you'll start tomorrow, or next week, or next year. Start now. Start with one small choice. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be big. It just has to be intentional. Because every time you choose to show up, every time you choose to do the work, every time you choose to feed the stronger version of yourself, you're creating the life you were meant to live. And remember this, small choices might not seem powerful in the moment, but they have the power to change everything. One step at a time, one day at a time, one choice at a time, you can become the person you were meant to be. So don't wait. Start now. And watch what happens when you make the decision to live with intention and consistency. You might just surprise yourself. Number 6, breaking free from excuses. I want you to be honest with yourself. How many times have you told yourself, I'll start tomorrow, or I'll do it when things settle down, or I can't do this because of my circumstances? How many times have excuses stood in the way of your dreams? If you're like most people, it's probably more often than you'd like to admit. And that's okay, because today is the day we're going to change that. Today is the day we stop letting excuses control our lives. Today is the day we break free. Excuses are comfortable. They're easy to reach for when things get hard. They protect us from the discomfort of failure and the fear of stepping outside our comfort zones. But let me tell you something. Excuses are also a prison. They keep you stuck. They keep you small. They stop you from becoming the person you're capable of being. And the longer you cling to them, the harder it becomes to break free. I've heard all the excuses before. I don't have the time. I'm too tired. I don't know where to start. I don't have the resources. Trust me, I've said some of those things myself at one point or another. But here's what I've learned. Excuses are just stories we tell ourselves. They're not facts. They're not truths. They're just stories. And the good news is, you have the power to change the story you're telling yourself. Think about this for a moment. Imagine you're standing in front of a door, and on the other side of that door is everything you've ever wanted. The life you dream about, the goals you want to achieve, the person you want to become. But to open that door, you have to let go of the excuses you've been holding on to. You can't carry them with you. You have to leave them behind. What would you do? Would you keep clinging to those excuses? Or would you let them go so you could walk through that door? The truth is, letting go of excuses isn't easy. It's uncomfortable. It forces you to take responsibility for your life. And that can be scary. But it's also empowering. Because when you stop making excuses, you take back your power. You realize that you're in control of your choices and your actions. And that's when real change becomes possible. I want you to think about an excuse you've been holding on to. Something that's been holding you back from going after what you want. Maybe it's, I don't have the time. Let's talk about that. The truth is, we all have the same 24 hours in a day. It's not about having the time. It's about making the time. It's about prioritizing what matters to you. Because if something is important enough to you, you'll find a way. And if it's not, you'll find an excuse. Or maybe your excuse is, I don't know where to start. That's a common one. And I get it. Starting can feel overwhelming. But here's the thing. You don't have to have it all figured out. You don't have to know every step of the journey. You just have to take the first step. And once you take that step, the next one will become clearer. Progress doesn't come from knowing everything. It comes from doing something. Sometimes the excuses we make are rooted in fear. Fear of failure. Fear of rejection. Fear of the unknown. And that fear is real. But it doesn't have to control you. Fear will always be there. But you can choose to face it. You can choose to take action despite the fear. Because every time you do, you prove to yourself that you're stronger than you think. And the more you face your fears, the less power they have over you. Breaking free from excuses also means being honest with yourself. It means taking a hard look at your life and asking yourself, am I doing everything I can to move forward? Or am I holding myself back? That kind of honesty can be uncomfortable, but it's also necessary, because you can't change what you're not willing to confront. One of the most powerful ways to overcome excuses is to shift your mindset. Instead of focusing on why you can't do something, focus on how you can. Instead of looking for obstacles, look for opportunities. Instead of telling yourself, I'm not good enough, remind yourself of your strengths and your potential. Your mindset shapes your reality, and when you choose to adopt a mindset of possibility, you open yourself up to a world of new opportunities. Another key to breaking free from excuses is surrounding yourself with the right people. People who support you, who challenge you, who hold you accountable. Because let's be honest, it's easy to fall into the trap of excuses when you're surrounded by others who do the same. But when you're around people who are driven, who are taking action, who are pushing themselves to be better. It inspires you to do the same. Let me tell you something else. Breaking free from excuses isn't about being perfect. It's not about never making a mistake or never falling short. It's about getting back up every time you do. It's about refusing to let setbacks become stopping points. It's about choosing progress over perfection every single day. Because every small step you take, every small victory you achieve, is a step closer to the life you want. I want you to think about what your life could look like if you stopped making excuses. What would you accomplish? How would you feel? Who would you become? That version of you is possible. It's within your reach. But you have to be willing to let go of the excuses that are holding you back. You have to be willing to take responsibility for your choices and your actions. And you have to be willing to show up for yourself, even when it's hard. So here's my challenge to you. The next time you catch yourself making an excuse, stop and ask yourself, is this true? Or is this just a story I'm telling myself? And then ask yourself, what can I do right now to take a step forward? It doesn't have to be a big step. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be something. Because every time you choose action over excuses, you're building momentum. You're building strength. You're building the life you want. Remember this, excuses are comfortable, but they're also a cage. And the key to that cage is in your hands. You have the power to break free. You have the power to take control of your life. And when you do, you'll be amazed at what you're capable of. So stop waiting. Stop holding yourself back. Let go of the excuses. Take that first step and keep moving forward. Because the life you want is waiting for you, and it's up to you to go after it. Number 7, facing fear and doubt. You're sitting there right now. And I know this might be hard to hear, but I'm going to say it anyway. Fear is holding you back. It's not the circumstances. It's not the environment. And it's certainly not the people around you. It's fear. And I get it. Fear is real. We all face it, every single one of us. But I want you to understand something really important. Fear doesn't have to control you. You can choose to face it, walk through it, and keep going. And until you do, fear will keep you stuck. Fear is like a shadow. It follows you around. It whispers doubts in your ear. It convinces you that you're not good enough, that you'll never make it. But fear is a liar. It thrives on your hesitation, your doubts, your inaction. And it gets stronger the more you feed into it. Let's break it down a bit, because I think most people don't really understand the power of fear until they face it head on. Fear isn't just about being scared of something tangible, like heights or spiders. Fear is sneaky. It hides in your thoughts, in the stories you tell yourself, in the excuses you make. It convinces you that if you take a step forward, you'll fail. Or worse, you'll look foolish. Fear tells you you're not ready yet, or it's too risky. It whispers, what if this doesn't work out? It tells you that it's safer to stay where you are, even if staying where you are isn't working for you. But I'm telling you right now, fear is only powerful if you allow it to be. You see, fear is nothing more than a signal. It's a signal that you're on the verge of something important, something meaningful. You can't grow without fear. You can't push past your limits without fear. If you're not feeling fear, then you're not pushing yourself hard enough. You're not growing. Think about some of the most important things you've ever done. The things that changed your life. Did you feel fear when you started? Of course you did. Whether it was a new job, moving to a new city, making a big decision, or taking on a new challenge. Fear showed up, but the difference between the people who succeed and the people who stay stuck is what they do with that fear. The people who succeed feel the fear, acknowledge it and do it anyway. They keep moving forward. The people who stay stuck let fear stop them in their tracks. They listen to the voice of fear, and they turn around, retreating back to what's comfortable, to what's familiar. I want you to understand that feeling fear is not a sign that you shouldn't move forward. It's a sign that you're on the edge of something great. Every time you take a step into the unknown, fear is going to be right there, trying to hold you back. But you can't let it. The only way to get past that fear is to face it. And the more you do, the easier it gets. Each time you take action in spite of fear, you build courage. You build resilience. You prove to yourself that you are stronger than the fear you feel. And you start to realize that fear doesn't have the power you once thought it did. You start to see it for what it truly is. a challenge, an obstacle, not something that has control over you. Think about how many times fear has held you back from doing something that could change your life. Maybe it was fear of failure, fear of what other people would think, or fear of not being good enough. And I get it. I've been there too. But here's what I want you to remember. Your fear is not your enemy. It's a teacher. It's showing you where you need to grow. It's highlighting the areas in your life where you're ready for a breakthrough. So instead of running from it, I want you to lean into it, embrace it, walk through it. And when you do, you'll see that fear wasn't as scary as it seemed from the outside. Let's talk about doubt for a second, because doubt is often tied to fear. When fear shows up, doubt isn't far behind. It says, what if you fail? What if you're not good enough? What if you try and fall flat on your face? And the worst part, doubt makes you question yourself. It makes you question your abilities, your worth, your potential. But the only way to silence doubt is through action. Action is the antidote to doubt. Every time you take a step, even if it's a small one, you prove to yourself that you can do it. You prove that you're capable, and you build the confidence to keep moving forward. The more you act in spite of the doubt, the less power doubt has over you. And I'm not going to lie to you. It's not easy. There will be moments when fear and doubt will try to stop you. Moments when you'll question everything. Moments when you'll feel like giving up. But those moments are the defining moments. They're the moments that separate the people who reach their potential from the people who never do. It's in those moments when you have a choice. You can either listen to the fear and the doubt, or you can choose to keep going. I'm not telling you that you won't feel fear. I'm not telling you that you won't have moments of doubt. What I am telling you is that you don't have to let those feelings dictate your actions. You don't have to let them control you. You can choose to keep going, even when it feels hard, even when it feels scary, even when it feels like the odds are against you. Because you are stronger than you think. You have more courage, more resilience, and more power than you've been giving yourself credit for. And the best part, every time you push through that fear, you'll look back and realize just how far you've come. You'll realize that the things you once feared are no longer a threat. You'll realize that the fear of failure, the fear of not being enough, was all just a story. And when you face your fears, you rewrite that story. You take control of your life. You step into the person you were always meant to be. So the next time fear shows up, and it will remember this, fear is not a sign that you should turn around. It's a sign that you're on the verge of something incredible. You're on the verge of a breakthrough. You're on the verge of growth, and you have the strength to face it, to move through it, and to come out stronger on the other side. Fear doesn't control you. You control how you respond to it. And when you choose courage over fear, you unlock the power to do anything. The only question is, are you willing to face your fears today? Number 8, building momentum with small wins. Let's get real for a moment. You've had those days, right? The days when everything feels like it's going wrong, when you're overwhelmed by the mountain of things you need to do, and the momentum just doesn't seem to be there. Maybe you've hit a wall, and you feel stuck, like no matter how hard you try, nothing is moving forward. And let me tell you, this is exactly when you need to dig deep and find your strength. This is when you build momentum. The truth is, the most successful people don't get where they are by waiting for the perfect time, or by waiting for everything to fall into place. No, they get there by taking small steps, even on the days when it's hard. They keep moving forward, one action at a time, no matter how insignificant it might seem in the moment. They know that momentum doesn't happen overnight. It's built, little by little, through consistency and perseverance. Momentum is that invisible force that propels you forward. It's what keeps you going when things get tough. It's the energy that comes from the simple act of doing. You see, success doesn't happen in giant leaps. It's the result of small, consistent actions that compound over time. And let me tell you, those small actions matter. Every single one of them. When you push through the moments of resistance, when you make a choice to keep moving even when you don't feel like it, you are building momentum. The more consistent you are, the easier it becomes to keep moving, to keep growing, to keep taking steps forward. The key here is that momentum doesn't just come from big, dramatic changes. It comes from those small victories you experience every day. You know, those moments when you do something, anything, even when you don't feel like it, and you realize that it wasn't so hard after all. You start to feel that little spark inside of you, that sense of accomplishment. You've taken action, you've made progress, and that progress feels good. It gives you energy, and that energy is what fuels your next step. It's like a snowball rolling down a hill. It starts small, but as it gains momentum, it picks up speed and becomes unstoppable. Think about it. Have you ever had one of those days where you don't feel like doing anything? I know I have. You wake up, and everything feels like it's a struggle. But then maybe you do something small, like getting out of bed and making your bed. Or maybe you get out for a quick walk. Or you spend 10 minutes working on a task you've been putting off. And suddenly that small action leads to another one, and then another. Before you know it, you've knocked out a few things on your to-do list. And you've gained a little bit of momentum. You've broken the cycle of inaction, and that feels like a win. Here's the thing about momentum. It's not just about achieving big goals. It's about creating that forward movement that keeps you going. You see, once you start, it becomes easier to keep going. And the more you keep going, the easier it gets. Success is not just about reaching the destination. It's about the process of getting there. Step by step, day by day. It's about the momentum you build as you move forward. It doesn't matter how small the steps are. What matters is that you take them. Each action, no matter how insignificant it might seem, is a piece of the puzzle. It's the building block of momentum. And before you know it, those small steps add up to something big. You may not see the full picture right now, but trust me, it's being built every time you move forward. Every time you make progress, no matter how small, you're moving closer to where you want to be. And let me tell you something that might surprise you. Momentum doesn't always feel like it's going to work at first. It might feel slow. It might feel frustrating. There will be days when you don't feel like you're making any progress at all. But that's where the magic happens. That's where most people give up. But that's also where you have the opportunity to push through. You can't wait for the perfect moment. You can't wait until you feel ready. You just have to start. And once you start, keep going. Even when it's hard. Even when it feels like nothing is changing. Because that's when momentum is being built. I know it's tough. It's hard to keep going when you don't see the immediate results. But let me tell you, the results are coming. They're just not always visible right away. That's the thing about momentum. It takes time to build, but once you've got it, it's hard to stop. You might not be able to see the fruits of your labor today or tomorrow, but I promise you, every small step is adding up, and eventually you're going to look back and realize just how far you've come. Here's another important piece of the momentum puzzle. Don't underestimate the power of consistency. Momentum doesn't just come from doing something once and expecting the world to change. It's about showing up, day after day, even when it's tough, even when you don't feel like it. You can't expect to run a marathon without putting in the miles. You can't expect to see major changes in your life without making consistent effort. Small actions over time create results, and that's what builds momentum. You might be thinking, Jim, I don't have the energy to keep pushing like that every single day. And I get it. You're busy, life is overwhelming, and the grind can feel like it's never ending. But here's the thing. You don't have to do everything at once. Just start with one thing. One task, one goal, one small action. That's all it takes to get the ball rolling. Once you start, momentum will kick in, and you'll find yourself doing more than you thought you could. You'll find yourself surprising yourself. The beautiful thing about momentum is that once you've got it, it becomes easier. Your confidence grows, your energy grows, and with each small victory, you gain a little more momentum. It's like a snowball rolling down a hill. It starts small, but as it gathers speed, it picks up more and more momentum. And soon you're cruising. Things that used to feel impossible suddenly feel doable. Challenges that seemed insurmountable start to look like just another step in the process. But it all starts with that first step. The decision to start. The decision to keep going. No matter how small the progress may seem, you don't need a big, dramatic breakthrough to start building momentum. You just need to start. Take that first step, and then the next one, and then the next. Keep going. Keep moving forward. And before you know it, you'll have built momentum that is unstoppable. Number 9, the role of accountability and environment. There's a truth that's hard for many people to accept, but it's something we all have to face. You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Now, I know that might sound harsh, but it's the reality of life. The people around you, the environment you create, it shapes who you are and where you're going. Your success, your mindset, your habits. They're all influenced by those you surround yourself with. If you want to grow, if you want to get better, then you need to take a good, hard look at who you're surrounding yourself with and whether they're pushing you forward or holding you back. Let's break this down. If you're constantly around people who are negative, who complain about their circumstances, but never do anything to change them, who make excuses for why they can't achieve more, guess what happens? That mindset starts to rub off on you. You start thinking like them. You start accepting mediocrity. You start to believe that this is all life has to offer. It's easy to get comfortable in that space, isn't it? It's easy to just go along with the flow, to settle for what's familiar. But that's not going to get you where you want to go, and you know that deep down. But let me tell you this, you don't have to stay there. You have the power to choose your environment. You have the power to choose who you spend your time with. And when you make that decision, when you start surrounding yourself with people who uplift you, who challenge you, who push you to be better, everything changes. You start to believe in your own potential. You start to see things differently. And most importantly, you start taking action. Because when you're in an environment where everyone is striving for success, where growth is the norm, you can't help but get swept up in it. It's like being in a room full of people who are passionate about their goals. You start to feel that energy. You start to believe that you can achieve more too. And that's when your mindset shifts. But it's not just about the people around you. It's also about the environment you create for yourself. Think about it. When your space is messy, when your desk is cluttered, when your physical environment is chaotic, how do you feel? You feel overwhelmed. You feel stuck. You feel like your energy is drained. It's hard to think clearly, isn't it? It's hard to focus on what really matters. But when you clean up your space, when you organize your surroundings, something magical happens. Your mind clears up. Your energy lifts. You start feeling like you're in control again. And that's what we're talking about here. Control. You have control over your environment. You have control over who you spend your time with. You have control over what you allow into your life. And when you start taking control of your environment, you'll see how much it impacts your mindset and your ability to succeed. Success doesn't happen in a vacuum. It happens in the environment you create. If you're in a space where negativity is the default, where laziness is accepted, then that's what you'll continue to attract. But if you surround yourself with people who are focused on growth, who are positive, who are moving forward, then that's what you'll start to become. You'll start to rise to that level. Now, I know this isn't always easy. It's not always easy to let go of relationships or environments that are holding you back. It's not always easy to say goodbye to people you've known for years, or to change your daily habits. But let me ask you this. How bad do you want it? How bad do you want to create the life you've always dreamed of? Because if you're not willing to make those changes, if you're not willing to step up and take control of your environment, then you're going to keep getting the same results. You're going to stay stuck. But if you're ready to step into your potential, if you're ready to move forward, then you have to be willing to make the tough decisions. You have to be willing to surround yourself with people who challenge you to be better. You have to create an environment that nurtures your growth. And here's the truth. It's not about being around people who always agree with you. It's not about surrounding yourself with people who make you feel comfortable. It's about being around people who make you think. It's about being around people who see your potential even when you don't. It's about being around people who are going to hold you accountable, who are going to push you when you're slacking off, who are going to help you see your blind spots. These are the people who will help you rise to your full potential. They'll help you level up. But here's the catch. This isn't just about finding the right people. It's also about being the right person. You can't expect others to inspire you if you're not inspiring yourself first. You can't expect others to push you forward if you're not doing the same for them. The environment you create isn't just about who's around you. It's about the energy you bring to the table too. Are you bringing positivity? Are you bringing ambition? Are you bringing a willingness to grow? Because that energy is contagious. And when you bring that energy, it attracts others who are on the same wavelength. It attracts people who want to grow just like you. It's all about surrounding yourself with the right people, the right mindset, and the right environment. But remember, it starts with you. You have the power to make those choices. You have the power to change your environment and to choose who you spend your time with. Don't wait for someone else to change your life. Don't wait for things to magically improve. Take control, take responsibility, and start creating the environment that will help you thrive. So ask yourself, who are you spending your time with? What kind of energy are you allowing into your life? Are you surrounding yourself with people who push you to be better? Or are you stuck in a cycle of negativity and complacency? If you're serious about making a change, it's time to take a good hard look at your environment and make the changes that are necessary. If you want to level up, you have to surround yourself with the right people and create the right environment. Because your future is too important to leave to chance. It's time to take control. It's time to start building the life you've always wanted. And it starts with the people and environment you choose to surround yourself with. Number 10, your decision, your responsibility. I want to tell you something that you might not want to hear, but it's the truth. And the truth is what you need to hear right now. Your life is your responsibility. Everything that's happening or not happening is in your hands. The decisions you make today are shaping your tomorrow. The actions or lack of action that you take today will determine who you become. There's no one else to blame, no one else to point the finger at. You are the one in control. If you want something different, if you want a better life, it starts with you. It always starts with you. I know that may sound like a heavy burden to carry, but let me tell you something. It's also the most freeing thing you'll ever realize. Because once you accept that it's your responsibility, you can stop waiting for other people or circumstances to change. You can stop complaining about what's not working and take full ownership. And when you do that, everything changes. You become empowered. You become the creator of your life. You stop being the victim and start being the victor. It's easy to fall into the trap of blaming the world around us. We look at our circumstances and say, if only this were different. If only I had a better job, a better boss, a better situation. It's easy to play the victim. And trust me, we've all done it. I've done it. But here's the thing about playing the victim. It keeps you stuck. It keeps you in a cycle of negativity, of thinking that your happiness and success are up to someone else or something else. It takes the power away from you and gives it to everyone and everything else. But that's not how you create the life you want. The key to creating change is in recognizing that your life is yours to shape. If you want more, if you want a better version of yourself, you've got to make the choice to take responsibility. That means owning up to the fact that you are where you are because of the choices you've made. It's not easy to admit that. It's tough. But once you take that step, you're free. Free to make a change. Free to decide that you can do better. Free to start moving forward. So let's talk about what that looks like. It's not just about saying, I'm responsible for my life. It's about making the decision every single day to act in alignment with that truth. It's about showing up for yourself, even when it's hard. It's about making the right choices, even when it feels easier to do the wrong thing. It's about getting uncomfortable and doing the work, even when you're not motivated. That's the real responsibility of creating the life you want. It's about doing the things that need to be done, even when you don't feel like doing them. It's about consistency. It's about creating new habits that move you forward, even when the path isn't clear. It's about taking ownership of your health, your finances, your relationships, and your mindset. It's about doing the things you know you should be doing, without needing anyone else to tell you. You don't need permission. You don't need approval. You don't need anyone else to take responsibility for your success. It's all on you. But here's the most important part. Once you take that responsibility, you also take the power. You stop waiting for the right time, the right circumstances, or the right people. You stop relying on the world to be perfect before you take action. Instead, you take action despite the challenges. You take action because you know that every step you take brings you closer to your goals. Even if it's a small step, progress is progress, no matter how small. Now, I'm not saying this is easy. I'm not saying you won't face obstacles along the way. You will. But here's the secret. Every obstacle, every setback is an opportunity for growth. It's a chance for you to show yourself what you're really made of. It's a chance to prove to yourself that you can handle whatever life throws your way. When you take full responsibility, you stop being afraid of challenges. You stop fearing failure. You see them for what they really are. Lessons. Lessons that will make you stronger, more resilient, and more prepared for the next level. I also want to remind you that taking responsibility doesn't mean you have to do it all alone. You don't have to figure everything out by yourself. You can seek help. You can find mentors, and you can surround yourself with people who will support your growth. But the key is that you have to own your journey. No one can do the work for you. No one can make the decisions for you. No one can walk your path for you. The beauty of taking responsibility is that it empowers you to take control. You can't control everything that happens in life, but you can control how you respond. You can control the actions you take, the decisions you make, and the way you show up each day. And when you take control of your actions, your responses, and your mindset, you start to create the life you want. You start building the future you deserve. You also have to recognize that the process of growth and success is not linear. It's messy. It's filled with ups and downs. There will be days when you feel like you're moving forward, and there will be days when you feel like you're stuck. But that's okay. The important thing is that you keep going. You don't quit. You don't give up on yourself. You keep showing up. You keep doing the work, even on the days when it feels hard. And trust me, there will be hard days. But you have to be willing to push through them. Because it's in those hard days that you build the character, the resilience, and the strength that will carry you to the next level. So ask yourself, are you ready to take full responsibility for your life? Are you ready to own your choices, your actions, and your future? If the answer is yes, then I want you to commit to it right now. Take that step. Stop waiting for things to magically change. Stop blaming circumstances or other people. Take control of your life. You have everything you need to succeed within you. The only thing standing in your way is the story you've been telling yourself about what's possible. It's time to rewrite that story. It's time to take full responsibility for who you are and where you're going. Because you are the only one who can create the life you want. And it starts with the decision you make today.